Welcome back to Rome Boys. On this episode, James chapter 3. Jaime tres. Jaime tres. James chapter 3.
Oh, here we go.
So, yeah, the first verse. Go for it.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It just, I get fired up sometimes, but
Sometimes.
It's a burning question. It's a burning verse. It really is.
well, and I'll try to be nice. I
Okay.
guess I don't want
No.
to burn a
Do you
hole.
want nice?
Okay.
Yeah.
Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers.
I'm out.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, I'm telling the
Yeah.
teacher, what the heck?
Well, maybe that's this is the day that our show ended.
Thanks, Chris. Or James, whatever.
We're done. Thanks, James.
Wasn't me. No, but there's a friend of mine who was our faith formation director in at St. Thomas Aquinas, the church. I came into the church, the Catholic Church, and he used to give the absolute best conversational teaching of the Great Commission, and it's amazing because I always felt like it was Jesus with a bunch of kids sitting around him, but it was my friend Adam, and he just did it so well. Like the summary was perfect, and it's like, whoa! If I was going to give an elevator speech and somebody gave me 3 to 5 minutes in an elevator,
go make disciples.
that's
yeah.
it. Boom! He just laid it on the table.
Hmm.
But he said part of why he knew that so well was he was raised Catholic, and then he became Protestant and went and got a master's of divinity from a Protestant school, and they gave him his Bible, when he graduated, and it was the thing, kind of like a priest in his collar. It was super special, and he was supposed to preach from the pulpit in a Protestant church for the first time as a Protestant minister, and and he got sick, and he didn't do it. And so he tells me this story in light of James chapter 3, which says, "Not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, for you realize that we will be judged more strictly. For
Great.
we all fall short in many respects."
Amen. Let me say mine here. Let not many of you become teachers, my brothers, for you know that we who teach shall be judged with great strictness.
So I got that going for me, which is nice.
A little bit to spin on that.
Strictly.
So it's one of the things for me coming into the church was that the whole magisterium was there. And one of the things that made me leave Protestantism as I was running into the church as a convert was there was a pastor that stood on stage that said everybody else is doing it wrong and the Baptists were doing it right and everybody else fell away and they stuck with the truth and and
At least he was bold enough to say that. I mean, most
right.
won't go there.
I mean, why else would you be there if that's not what you believed, right? So he Adam was just saying that he felt that he was not going to be teaching from the magisterium. He had his Bible, but it was going to be his interpretation.
Yeah.
And so
He's the Pope.
Yeah, he's the Pope, right? Yeah. That's exactly what the case is, or whoever your college professor was, or the person on earth who is telling you what you should believe, and manipulating the Bible to make it fit a narrative of the time. And so it's this right here that makes me all the time second guess being a teacher with words, because mine is titled "The Power of the Tongue," and so it's kind of like the possibility of St. Francis being coined of saying, "Preach the gospel at all times when necessary. Use words."
And if you study the charisms, well, there's 20 or even more charisms. In the church, we look at teaching as one of the highest things. Like, we have more CCD teachers than any other thing in the church. Like, teachers are the best, and like that's the most positions are teachers within the church. But it shouldn't be that way. If there's 20 charisms, then look at a parish, and let's say it has 1,000 people, then only 1/20th percentage of that parish should actually be really teachers. To have that gift and have that grace, and should be put put in that role, because lots of times people just take that role because there's nobody else that will do
Yeah.
it.
Do it,
But do
yeah.
you have that charism? Is that your gift? Is that what God has blessed you with? I mean, maybe you're supposed to be hospitality. You're supposed to be greeting people. Maybe you're supposed to be
Yeah.
service. I mean, whatever it may be. So I
Well,
think
even, are you even formed enough to be
Catechized
doing that job?
to-
Catechized
Yeah, brother.
enough to be doing that job.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of times,
because have you
I
been
know, I
taught
get
so
it.
that you can teach? Just like the
I
3
get it.
years.
We're
the
struggling to
apostles.
find teachers all the time, but does that mean we should just settle?
Yeah, on anyone.
Because what are they teaching?
Yeah.
They're teaching from a perspective that somebody else gave them that might
Right.
not have been
Well,
fully catechized.
Sure,
as,
sure.
as a DRE,
Or
I was,
evangelize for that matter, because how many those teachers should be people that are disciples, so they can make disciples.
Yeah.
If they're not, what's the point?
Great. I think I got it, but just in case, tell me the whole thing again. I wasn't listening.
DRE,
Or
I was,
evangelize for that matter, because how many those teachers should be people that are disciples, so they can make disciples.
Yeah.
If they're not, what's the point?
yeah,
Why
that's
are they
right.
there?
You're right, right. It's not just education. Read from this book.
Exactly. Who
workbook,
cares about
and-
knowledge? Yeah, at that
that's
point.
right. The Bible doesn't care about knowledge. Wisdom is only through experience, which is what you're talking about. You know,
But this whole thing about some of you shouldn't be teachers, and you will be judged more strictly. We shouldn't be putting people in positions to be teaching that don't
Yeah,
know what they're talking
they're
about.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
talking to the pagans here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
This is instruction to the Christians.
Again, he seems like he's
Yes.
just reaching out to the people that are
Yeah.
on the same in the
It's
same boat.
This is a warning. You know,
Yeah.
this is not a condemnation or anything like. This is a warning. Hey, some of you shouldn't be teachers because
Yeah.
y'all are going to get judged for what
Yeah.
you teach.
And then he
the
talks
future
about the tongue. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
then
be
we go
careful
into the
what
tongue.
comes out of your mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
The analogies are really cool. James is like a blue collar guy. You know?
Yeah.
He's a Peter Kreeft of the Bible
yeah.
times.
Oh yeah, that's your man. Yeah. So if anyone does not fall short, well, let me just.
Well, even verse 2, it says,
Yeah.
it's what it says, for we all make many mistakes. So, yeah,
Amen,
you're going to be
brother.
judged strictly, but at least you know, oh, good night, I can think of 100 right now
yeah.
myself, you know. So, okay, thank you. You'll be judged strictly, but you are entitled to make mistakes because you're human. Get
Yep.
your backside to confession to get cleaned up.
We know you're going to screw up.
Yeah.
yeah.
So just
Yeah.
settle your heart with that.
Accept
You know, you're going to screw up. Good
yeah.
luck.
Yeah.
If anyone does not fall short in speech, he is a perfect man, able to bridle his whole body also. So this is a reference to why, you know, in Paul talks about if you're not married, stay single and, you know, be a priest basically, right? And then also too, in respect to becoming a priest, and this is a nod to the priesthood, that if anyone does not fall short in speech, he is a perfect man, able to bridle his whole body. Which is, when you think of a bridle, it's in the mouth, and the mouth leads
The bit.
Yeah, it
Bit in
leads the
mouth of
entire
chomp-
body
horses
wherever.
chomp on,
Yep.
yeah. Or he talks about horses in the next one.
Yeah, yeah. If we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we also guide their entire bodies. When I read this the other day, I also thought about like politics and you know, how propaganda. If you get into their minds and you speak all of these things, you make a people do
Yeah.
a thing. You know?
Yeah. A movement. Yeah.
It's true.
It's amazing how maybe that's what we need to focus on during a Lenten season, or just the New Year's resolution is what's coming out of my mouth. You know,
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it off.
I call it tongue talk. You know, am I blessing or am I cursing? You know,
Yeah.
you know, how is this mouth being used? And the older and wiser I get, the more I say, just be quiet, and say
Yeah.
nothing, because if it's not going to be good and edifying to whoever may be listening,
It's
they
true.
may not even care to begin with. Let's just hold back, refrain. And I always tell a story of Sister Prudence. You know, when I was in seminary, 6'6" nun, like
Now you're all in big trouble.
hardcore. You were deathly afraid of this lady. Like, we were grown men in the seminary or whatever else. And she was the brightest mind I've ever encountered. Wrote tons of volumes of books on things or whatever else. But anytime you asked her a question, she would think about it, pray about it. There was this awkward silence for a while.
Wow.
And then she would make a decision. So I actually never thought of a time, because she got frustrated with us because our intellects were like down here and she was way up there. And she had to speaking of ignoramus in our last episode, she had to lower herself to be able to explain to us, not
Just
in a
saying
bad
that,
way.
How am I going to dumb this down so they can understand?
So they can understand it. But I never heard her say anything because she got frustrated with us and impatient or whatever else. But she prayerfully, before anything came out of her mouth, she made sure it was always grace filled. Anyways, it causes me to
smart.
say, bite the tongue. Like
Yeah.
don't say something unless it's gonna, be a good thing for others to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Phil says you should say 5 less things a day to someone else. Okay.
less things. Cut
Dr.
back
Phil,
on
I
that.
don't know. I
Us men, we already have a quota.
yeah,
By the time the end of the day, I'm done.
Yeah.
yeah.
Said it all in the first 10 minutes. of the
There you
day.
go.
But yeah, I like that part where you're talking about the tongue being evil, where it says the tongue is a small member and yet has great pretensions. Yeah.
Consider how small a fire can set a huge forest ablaze.
Yes.
That is
yes.
kind of like the chapter 3.
Yeah.
It's like,
summary.
ugh.
Yeah.
The times that
Yeah.
we've said something
Right in
in
the
life,
gut.
and you're like, "Gosh, that just set a fire." And how do I
Oh,
put it
yeah.
out?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Only God can.
Isn't it true?
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
put the
He
words
can,
back
he
in your
can be
mouth,
the
or-
airplane to let all the water out, but gosh, we can't. I mean,
Yeah.
once it goes, it goes.
Put my, Lacey laughs at me now. But I mean, some things that pop in my head, they just sound good up here. And when they come out of my mouth, I'm like, oh, that's not
That's
what I
not
meant.
the same.
That is not what I had in my head. And she just knows it was better in your head, wasn't it? Yeah, it was.
You should have left it there.
Exactly.
but
It
now
sounded
you
so
know.
much better in there. Yeah, I put my foot in my mouth. Liza was asking me the other day, who's your favorite saint? And I said, well, I think here lately it's been Peter.
Okay.
Because I can relate. He puts his foot in his mouth
There
a
you
lot,
go.
so
There you
that's
go.
me. My tongue. Maybe I should put my foot in there more often. It would shut me up.
It works.
Yeah.
It really does.
I mean, I can count many times where I've ruined relationships just by saying something wrong.
I think
know?
it's you're with the rest of humanity.
yeah.
So because
I'm not alone.
for every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and sea creature can be tamed and has been tamed by the human species, but no human being, including Joe Mathieson, can tame the tongue.
I'm in the Bible.
Yeah, you made it.
Oh,
It
that's
is
one of
a
my
restless evil, full of deadly poison.
And then the positive side, right? Like just one or two right words at the right time
man,
can
yeah.
just change a person's life. Like you look for those moments and you think back, you're like, wow, that's like, I remember when you said that. I'm like, wow, I don't remember saying that, but you thank God for those moments when you
So
actually
true.
said the right thing or it came out and you're like, that wasn't me, that was all God.
Right.
It was amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought you were actually talking about the next verse because
Oh,
it goes
perfect.
from being, it is a restless evil full of deadly poison, and with it, it can also bless the Lord
There
Yeah.
you go.
and Father. And with it, we curse human beings who are made in the likeness of God.
Ooh, you kiss your mother with that mouth?
Yeah. Right.
Right? Isn't it true? Amazing what we can do. It's it's like a brick. It's amoral. It has no good or bad morals. Its money is the same way. It has no morals. It is all. It takes on the characteristics of the beholder. Right.
Yes.
Dave
Yes.
Ramsey says you can take a brick and throw it through a church window. Or you could build a hospital with
Right.
it. Like it's not the brick's fault.
Right. Right.
Guns don't kill people. People kill people.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
It's true. So,
Well, then it goes into like the springs gush forth from the same opening, both pure and brackish. Can a fig tree, my brothers, produce olives or a grapevine? When I first read that, I was sitting there going, "What's wrong with olives?" Well, it's not a
Nothing.
fig.
It's not a fig.
Especially where he's writing this in the Holy Land area. Gosh, they're all over the place.
Yeah. Or a grapevine figs. Yeah. So basically, can it do both?
It's-
Or our tongue can.
Yeah. I love that it gives the analogy of salt water. Neither can salt water yield fresh.
Right.
You can be floating in a sea and die of dehydration.
Sure.
So
Sure.
just because it's you have the ability to use your tongue, it can be for good or bad things.
I'm picturing the Dead Sea right now, anyways. If
Yeah.
you're to the Holy Land. But yeah, verse 13. Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good life, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. Guys, that's my mission statement. I try to pass on wisdom, because when people say, well, you're so smart, you have all this knowledge, I'm like, I failed. Because that's my goal. My goal is to pass on wisdom and to be meek, like to make sure that others, I think it could be all of our mission statements, right? So like God is all in the center and I am like the altar server behind the scenes. I think that can always be a good mission of ours,
I kind of remember in one of my low moments in life, There's been a few. But I just remember just being really down on myself. You know, like, this is impossible. There's no way I'm going to get to heaven. But, you know, just as long as my kids get there. You know, I don't care what happens to me, just as long as they get there. You know, which that's, you know, wisdom comes from, as we say all the time. You know, wisdom comes from experience, and experience comes from bad decisions. So here, you know, I like that part where here he goes back to works. Let him show his works by a good life and the humility that comes from wisdom.
And then the works will get you out of the dumps of your mind or whatever you're at. And when you're low, and then get you right back in the game again.
Well, I mean, those times that we've done stupid things, we've been there, done that. I mean, every time, you know, you learn from your mistakes. I mean, every time something breaks, you know, even I'm thinking of farm equipment. Every time something breaks, well, the next time, all the time. Well, the next time I'm using that equipment and I hear that noise, I know what that was, you know, and then I know how to fix it. So the same thing in life, you know, when you screw up, you either know how to avoid it, or when it happens,
you become
again,
an expert. At least in that one little area.
There's that wisdom there comes from experience.
Thanks,
again.
God.
To the point that you made.
Anyway,
I like the phrase. It's doubt will take you out of action, but action will take you out of doubt. It's great because
keep moving.
Yeah. So the more stagnant you are, like you said, you know, you just it's almost like a downward spiral.
Sure.
But then you take action because you have faith, and wow, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And then it's Godspeed there too as well, because we're so busy. Everybody says they're so busy. They're always moving. Where are you moving to? You know, where are you going? If
What's
you're just,
the
you know,
point?
what's the point? What's the intention? What's your mission behind all that?
Well, I find this interesting. He talks about wisdom after he talks about how bad the tongue is.
Ugh, the human mouth is a disgusting place.
I mean, here we're talking about
when you're not talking, you're gaining wisdom. You're listening, right?
or you've used your tongue and you've screwed up so many times. Now you're gaining wisdom from that experience. You know, I mean, fallen relationships or things that you've said that have damaged other things. Oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't say that in front of some people.
Things that could have been brought to my attention yesterday.
You know,
right. Live and learn.
Live and learn. Don't do that. Well, isn't that what true wisdom is? Live and learn. I guess.
It brings about humility, you know, which brings about forgiveness.
Yeah.
And I think that's what wisdom is.
Seeing things the way God sees them.
Yeah. Okay.
He forgives us all, and obviously is the wisest there is. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, here it talks about how wisdom, if you have bitter jealousy or selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. So wisdom of this kind does not come from above. So in other words, if you're doing things solely for
your
own glory and your own
wisdom of this kind does not come from above, but it's earthly, unspiritual, and demonic.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just throw it out there. Here it
Yeah.
is. It's demonic. If you if your wisdom comes from
This is original
getting
sin.
yourself at the top.
Living for the world.
Yeah. It's you want that's what they wanted was the knowledge of God, to have the knowledge of God, and they ate from the fruit, which was tempted by the demon, by the serpent.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just reading the next verse 16 where it says, "For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there is disorder and every foul practice." In other words, if you're living your life through jealousy and self-ambition, you're not doing it right. You know, you're doing it out of order, and in foul practice, you're using foul practices to get there.
That slippery slope.
Think of politicians, but all of a sudden,
man, it is so
paying
good.
people under the table.
Yeah.
Briberies.
Check your speech. Yeah.
From the beginning of it, this section from chapter 3:13 is true wisdom, and it starts by just saying, it's through humility that you get wisdom. And it says what not to do, and then at the last word of it is peace.
Peace,
right? Like it's with jealousy creates disorder and selfish ambitions.
Yeah. But wisdom from above.
Yeah.
Let's end on a light note.
There you go. Yeah, unlike last time.
Yeah, I'll end on a lighter note. But the wisdom from above is first of all pure, the peaceable, gentle. Compliant. I was almost going to say complaint. I read that wrong. I got a little fuzzy there.
Where the peace is where God is, right?
Yeah, that's it.
That's the
full
surest
of mercy
thing we got.
and good fruits without inconsistency or insincerity.
That good fruits.
So, good fruits.
Yeah.
Fruit of righteousness is sown in peace for those who cultivate peace.
It's good.
Yeah. Cultivate. Are you growing peace? Are we living it, or are we doing it for ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the power of the tongue, and then, hey, shut up.
Yeah.
Be quiet.
There you go.
Pay attention.
There you go. Summary
And
edition
you'll
by
have
Chris
peace.
Martin.
Yeah. Watch your mouth and watch how you're.
It really is think before you speak.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
things will go well
Exactly.
with you, right?
Yeah.
Just the
Sister
perfect summary
Prudence.
was
Sister
Sister
Prudence.
Prudence. What a name.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. She
very
did great.
good.
Yep.
Watch your mouth and know your role.
Know your role and shut your mouth.
That's basically what it is. Or know your role and shut your mouth. So in the meantime,
Be bold.
be real.
Be Catholic. God bless.